this video, you will know a strategy of how to build a personal brand on LinkedIn without spending a lot of time on the platform. And you won't even need to create a lot of content there. Yes, we're gonna break the most common rules that all other social networks have and still build a powerful personal brand, because LinkedIn is different from Facebook or Instagram, and in many ways it's much easier than other platforms. If we haven't met before, my name is Marina Barayeva, and on this channel we talk about how to grow your powerful personal brand. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and click a bell next to it if you want to stay updated with more content like this. And today I have a special guest, Viveka van Rosen, who is known as LinkedIn expert. She is author of the best-selling LinkedIn Marketing An Hour a Day and LinkedIn 101 Ways to Rock Your Personal Brand. She is also a contributing expert to several of LinkedIn's official blogs and guides. So let's get right to the LinkedIn personal branding strategy.
And I think John already talked about, building up your profile. So I won't spend too much time on that, with the exception of saying, you really want to make an effort to make yourself look as professional as possible. That's really the first step, because once you start reaching out and engaging with people and building your brand and building your thought leadership and positioning yourself as an expert, if people are going to jump back to your profile, which they will, and your profile looks bleh, then, no one's going to believe you. So as far as credibility, take the time to, create that nice background image, have a headline that really tells people how you help them. We always say at Vengresso, which is my newest company, you want to focus on making your profile a resource rather than just a resume that you upload. You want to make it buyer-centric and focus on who your buyers are and what their points of pain are and how you solve them. And so you want to spend some time, and I'm sure John gave you excellent tips on how to do that. That comes first. After that, you can move into positioning yourself as an expert and building your brand that way. And the cool thing with LinkedIn is, if you're a thoughtful curator of other people's content, it's probably going to be almost as effective as if you're creating your own blogs and your own, videos and things like that, because you can always use the platform to tell people why they should read this book or look at that video or read that, blog post, even if it's not your own. And that creates positive sentiment. It gets people a sense of who you are, like, wow, this person's really tapped into their industry. They know everybody in the industry. They know what they're talking about. And as far as sourcing content for me, they're answering all my questions. And then, of course, if you happen to be a consultant or a contractor, obviously when the time comes for them to purchase your hours, you're going to be the first person that they think of. Maybe even beyond the person who wrote the blog or wrote the book or did the video, because they might in their mind think, oh, that person's too expensive. I couldn't possibly afford them, but here's this person who really knows their stuff, and maybe even a wider range of information. Obviously, that person's going to be my choice when it's time to buy.
That's interesting that you say that people can use curated content, not really create their own content. Because to whatever platform you come, usually people say, the experts say that you need to create more content. And here you say just use other people's stuff. How does that work? Like, what are your recommendations there?
And I think it's because I work with salespeople, right? So our focus as at Vengresso is we help, large enterprise corporate sales teams use LinkedIn for social selling. So I just know those salespeople are not going to create their own content. They're just not. So
that's easy. I want to be an expert. I want to be popular, but I'm not going to create anything.
It was so fun. We had this woman the other day, and she's like, I want to position myself as an expert on LinkedIn. We're like, okay, great. What books have you read? Blogs have you written? Videos do you have? Do you have a podcast? No.
Okay.
Like, well, tell us a little bit about this business that you have. Oh, I started it like a month ago. I'm like, okay, so with her, I mean, obviously at some point she needs to create content. And as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, if you're not already creating content, at some point you might want to. Blogs are great for SEO and positioning. Video obviously gets great visibility, especially on LinkedIn. And I know that some people are not comfortable yet walking into that role of creator. And that's where, if you happen to love, like the latest book I read was David Meerman Scott's Phenocracy. So I'm not quite ready to write my own book yet. Again, I've written 3 now, but I'm not quite ready to write my 4th one yet. So, but I'm not going to wait to talk about great books to read until I write my own book. I'm going to go out there, and I actually have done a native video on the power of phenocracy and why phenocracy is such a powerful concept for entrepreneurs, blah, blah, blah. And so I actually did a video talking about somebody else's content, but then I wove in the fact that, we help people use LinkedIn to create a phenocracy rather than just a following. And so that's how I took somebody else's content. I curated David's content, but I pulled it in. I kind of made it my own. And now I don't have to write a book for another year. No, I'm kidding. But this is about being realistic about people creating content if they don't like writing, if they don't like doing videos. Now, to everyone else's in the world's point, yes, you have to create content to be an influencer and to build your brand. But baby steps, like take those first steps first. If your company has a blog post, or if there's a blog that you follow, you can pull that link into LinkedIn and talk about what's in the blog, and literally write out, because you have 1,300 characters in an update, hey, whoever your target market is, you should really read this blog by, make sure to tag them so they get notified of it, which helps to, again, build that sense of connection. People go, oh, well, clearly, like with me doing it I actually happen to know David, but had I, even if I hadn't known David and I wrote about how good the book was, I would tag him in, and I did tag him in that post, right? Because that you want to pull in and people to start assuming that you have a relationship with these people that you're talking about. I'm not saying lie, like don't actually say you have a relationship if you don't, but when you're talking about those things and you pull those people's content into your feed and you tag them and you use appropriate hashtags, it's going to be an assumption. And again, that can help to elevate your brand.
You talk about so many things. Okay, let's do a little by little. Curated content. So this is the kind of whatever you are interested in right now, you can just share your opinion with people on LinkedIn.
Well, whatever. It's great if you're interested in it, but if your audience isn't interested in it, then don't share it. and there's definitely Facebook relevant content and LinkedIn relevant content. So as long as it's content that you're absorbing, but that you think your audience and your prospective buyers would be interested in, yeah, absolutely. Curate it, let people know what it's about, and kind of align yourself with that content. Don't plagiarize. I'm not saying say it's yours.
Yeah, always credit to the source. And I think it's a good idea.
You have to assign, knowledge, acknowledge the creator of the actual content, but you're aligning yourself with that content by pulling it into your feed.
Interesting. And then you mentioned that you can post the update there, like 300 words. So they had
1,200 characters. Yeah, 1,200 characters. Right, right. Which is about, to your point, 300 words or so. Yeah. So most people think it's about that much. People think that because LinkedIn only gives you this teeny tiny space, that you only have basically a tweet length, maybe 240, 260 characters. But both on your company page and on your personal profiles, the description section and an update's actually up to 1,300 characters, about 1,200 if you're going to add a link or anything like that.
And what is better now for LinkedIn? We have these posts, we have videos, we have live. Some people have live, and we have the
Yeah, some people
articles.
have live.
Some people have live. So which one is effective, and
Yeah.
which type of content LinkedIn push to more viewers?
Exactly. So you nailed it. LinkedIn is always going to push kind of the latest and greatest thing. So you mentioned LinkedIn Live. I also don't have it yet, which I'm taking very personally. Thank you very much, LinkedIn. But the people who do have it, it's an awesome tool. And just understand, in order for it to be effective, you have to really utilize the tool consistently, almost like a TV show. So there's people who have it and they kind of go, oh, I think I'll do a live right now. And they don't get a lot of visibility or engagement because they haven't set any expectation for their audience. Whereas people like Dr. I or Rob, who used to be with Thinkific and is now with TubeBuddy, because I can't say his last name. They actually created a show. And so I think I's is on Tuesday and Rob's is on Friday. Every Tuesday or Friday at the same time, they do this show and they bring in guests. And so they're getting incredible visibility. So that's LinkedIn Live. Not everyone has it yet, but when it comes to tools that everyone has on LinkedIn, they're all based around the update, with the exception of LinkedIn Publisher, which is don't ignore it, but it's not going to get you your most visibility right now. They might bring it, they might get excited about it again. They released it back in 2014 and it was really hot then. And then LinkedIn changed the algorithm and all of a sudden, you went from getting like 10,000 views to 2. So
Oh, wow.
I know. So right now with updates, it's so weird. It's such a small thing, but the little document icon, which is the top right in the update field, it just looks like a piece of paper. That allows you to upload like a PDF or a PowerPoint. Well, it's LinkedIn's newest toy, even though it's like 8 months old. And so when you upload a PowerPoint or a PDF, LinkedIn tends to give it more visibility. Native video, which is the little video icon in the middle. Native video still does pretty well. Not as well as it did when it first released, but it still does pretty well. And I still try to do a video or about a video a week, one native video a week. But the key to both of these, whether you're uploading a document, uploading a video, just sharing a link to a blog post, is, as we mentioned earlier, using those full 1,300 characters, because it eats up more space on the timeline. Like instead of scroll, like here's this big piece of content. It's not too big for people, might take them a minute to read the whole thing. So it's still absorbable by our short time frame, attention spans. And it'll allow you to do things like mention relevant people, use hashtags, pull in emojis where it's relevant, share links that will point people back to resources that maybe you have, a landing page, etc. So all of these things are useful, and you can utilize that with any update. Like I said, video, a document, a picture, a link, that all of it works.
So you kind of write this 1,300 characters, and then you add an image or video or link, so they goes together.
Exactly. Yeah. So, basically, if you go to my timeline, you'll see several that are just regular, because we also use a social sharing tool, so you'll see several that are maybe 200 or 300 characters. But, then you'll see the ones that are bigger and they'll stand out, and you'll see they have more likes, comments, and shares than anything else on my stream.
Interesting. And then you mentioned hashtags. Do they really work on LinkedIn?
I know. They did, then they didn't, then they did, then
Hmm.
they didn't, then they did. Yeah, so LinkedIn is a thing again. Or I mean, hashtags are a thing on LinkedIn again. We know LinkedIn's a thing. So when LinkedIn released hashtag communities, that was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, actually. Yeah, 2018. They were a big thing because you would like choose the hashtags that you wanted to follow, and they were called hashtag communities, and they were like little groups. And then LinkedIn took away the communities part of it. They still work the exact same way, but for some reason they just stopped calling them hashtag communities, and they stopped. You can still follow specific hashtags, but they're harder to organize than they were back 2 years ago. Nonetheless, the cool thing about hashtags is when you follow a hashtag or when someone follows a hashtag, they're likely to see content, surrounding that particular hashtag. So there's a good possibility, number one, that people who are outside of your network will see that content because they're following that particular hashtag. But even more importantly, LinkedIn itself has an algorithm which we have tested and tried to figure it out. We haven't really. We know that if you use 3 hashtags, it's usually best. And as long as you get enough engagement, LinkedIn will actually promote your content within the what used to be a community and is now just a timeline, which means you'll get even more visibility. So that's all to say hashtags are still very important. I recommend using 3. The first 3 should be more popular ones or ones that you think people are searching on. The 4th hashtag that you use, which probably will never get elevated, but it doesn't matter. It's really just for you, is to create a unique hashtag so that you're able to find your posts in the future. So we use one that's called hashtag Vengreso Vids. So anytime we do a video, we do hashtag Vengreso Vids, and then we can always find that particular video. Because the unfortunate thing about, updates is it's a little bit like Twitter, it's spaghetti on the wall. And if you don't save that link or use a tool like hashtags to find that particular piece of content, you might lose it forever.
Mm. It will just get lost among other
It'll just get
contexts.
lost
Yeah.
in the yeah. So if I do a video that I know I want to use again, I'll just save the link in a Chrome folder. I mean, it's these, and then I can always use it. I have a video that I shot. I think it was my very first video back in 2014 about using native video, and I still share it because it's still relevant. So
I see. And when you build a personal brand on LinkedIn, how do you use the hashtags? Do you use something very generic, like for you, maybe entrepreneurs or business, or you get to something smaller, like Entrepreneurs Tips 2020?
yeah. So no one's going to search on that, right? You can definitely use it yourself, just like you would on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to create your own community. So similar to what we did with Engresso Vids, but you're doing this to create a community. So for you wanting to create a community on LinkedIn around this particular subject, absolutely. Just know it's unlikely people are going to search on it or even know about it. But if you keep using it, people might just read through the content and click on that hashtag. That'll take them to the community. Then now they can start following it and now they'll be fed that content. So, yeah, you can absolutely do that. But again, for most posts, I would use that as my 4th one, if I were gonna use that. But for most posts, I'd use 3 more generic one, entrepreneurs, business owners, entrepreneurial success, maybe those 3, something like that.
And how to find and connect with the right people on LinkedIn? Like when you grow your personal brand, there are 2 options now. Like I've heard 2 opinions. One, you connect with as many people as you want, so you'll build your network. And there was another opinion, like why would you connect with so many people? Maybe they don't care about you, just want to sell you something. So what is more important for personal brand?
Yeah, and I used to be what's known as a LinkedIn lion, a LinkedIn open networker, which I was kind of the connect to everyone because you never know who you could potentially do business with. LinkedIn changed its algorithm about a year ago, and it promotes posts according to how much interaction it gets on a post in reflection to how big your network is. So even though I've got 30,000 connections, if I get 30 likes, comments, shares, etc., that's only like 0.1% of my network. Whereas if someone only had 300 connections and got 30 likes, shares, comments, that's 10% of their network. And so that post would get promoted way before mine would. So that the idea of having as big a network as possible, it's unmanageable. I know I'm at my limit. So and that's only because I've been on LinkedIn for so long. And I was a lion when I first started out. But you know, it's unmanageable. My stream's too noisy. There are a lot of spammers out there. I immediately delete them, but I still get that stupid follow-up email trying to sell me stuff when I first connect with them. My rule of thumb is absolutely connect to people you don't know, but only if you can help them build your business or build their business, or maybe they can help you build your business. Maybe you're looking for a graphic designer, or maybe you're looking for someone who builds sales funnels, or maybe you're looking for an accountant. Fine, you can connect with those folks, but mainly I only connect with people who fall into what I call, or what everyone calls, their buyer persona, right? So be very, very clear on who your buyers are and whether you're inviting them to connect or they're inviting you to connect. Just make sure they fall within your persona. If they don't, you seem like a very nice person, but sorry. Now, what I will do is if someone customizes an invitation to me, especially if it's a thoughtful one, I'll probably click over, look at their profile, and if they do seem like a nice enough person, I'll accept them. Or if they heard me on a webinar or a training or met me at an event and they invite me to connect, yeah, sure, why not? But in most cases, if it's from someone who falls outside of my buyer persona, they haven't customized the invitation. No, I'm not gonna accept that invitation to connect. Now, if you are going to proactively go out and invite people to connect, the reason I talked about engagement and creating content first is because that gets people to know, like, and trust you, so that when you do invite them to connect, they're like, "Oh, yeah, that name seems familiar. I think I read something from her at some point." They won't remember whether it's your content or not. They'll just remember she sent me some really, useful. I remember seeing that on her timeline. Yeah, that name is familiar. So that it's just like if you went to a regular live event, you wouldn't walk up to someone like, "Hey, I'm Vivica, and you should totally buy my stuff right now," which unfortunately is how a lot of people use LinkedIn. You would like listen in a little bit, which is just looking through your timeline and reviewing your prospects and seeing if they're sharing content. You kind of listen in, maybe walk around the event a little bit, wave hi here and there. And then when you heard a conversation going on, or if you wanted to start a conversation with someone, that's what you would do, right? You would share some information. They would share some information back. You would share some information with them. And at some point, the buying question will come up and you'll buy their stuff, or at least give them your card, or they'll buy your stuff or give you their card. But that's after listening in and having those conversations. And that's how your updates can work on LinkedIn. So what I like to do is, obviously, if people are commenting, liking, sharing my stuff, I'll look through the people who've liked my content, shared my content, commented on my content. And you can, of course, hover over their image, which will pull up their, little thumbprint of their bio. And then I can go, oh, I should totally connect with this person. Hey, I noticed the other day that you liked my comment on blah, blah, blah. I noticed we're not connected. Are you comfortable with that? Do you mind if I send you an invitation, or here's my invitation to connect? So it gives you something familiar with them already. I mean, they comment on stuff. You can also look, don't do this with competitors. It's kind of not cool, but if you've got a colleague or there's another influencer in your industry, you can go to their timeline, see who's commenting on their stuff, and start engaging with those people. So that, just like you would, walking into a conversation that's already happening at an event, and then just sliding in when the time is right. It's all about good timing. which is where most people get it wrong on LinkedIn. So that allows you to engage with people so that when you do, in fact, send that invitation to connect, they're a lot more likely to.
And what other ways to engage with people on LinkedIn would you suggest? Like one is the commenting. What else?
Yeah. Yeah. Recommendations or introductions. So LinkedIn used to have an introduction tool, which was really weird and hard to use. So I think people stopped doing it. But one of the best things, I mean, it's 82% of closed deals come from a referral or an introduction. So hello, let's do more of that. So all you would do is find someone that that you knew, or you'd find a prospect. We'll do it the other way first. So you go to your prospect on LinkedIn and you'd see if you have anyone in common with them. And then you could just, through an email, through a message on LinkedIn, through a phone call, go old school, ask that person, hey, do you really know Marina? I see you're connected to her on LinkedIn, but do you really know her? Yes, I do. No, I don't. So the yes, I do. Would you be willing to introduce me to her? And then you would either email message or in your conversation say, I can absolutely send you an introduction so you don't have to think about it or write it. And then you would write the introduction for them that they could send for you, introducing you to your prospect. It's basically, as long as they know the person, it's painless for them because they don't even have to think about, what to say about you because you've written it for them. So that is by far, we call it our two-step introduction strategy because it's 2 steps. Ask the person if they're willing to introduce you, write the introduction for them, and then you have them CC you on the introduction too. That way you know if they've actually done it or not, right? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, sure, I'll introduce you. Yeah, send me the script. I'll do it next week." And then they forget, they don't do it, they're uncomfortable, right? So, but introductions by far have the highest acceptance rate. We have one client who's got 100% acceptance rate for invitations that he sends out and phone calls that he has with these people because he does it all through an introduction. He might ask 5 people to introduce him to one person and then just choose the best yes. But Mike has, he's got 100% adoption rate. So that's pretty impressive.
It is. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
impressive. And you have the whole book about how to work on LinkedIn only 1
Yeah.
hour a day.
Oh yeah, don't buy that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Which one
one's
should
in
we
my
buy?
Yeah. That one's like 10 years old. So I literally wrote that one in 2010 and it published in 2011. So that one is like way too old and you won't even recognize LinkedIn on it. The latest one, which needs an update, it's true, but it's still like 90% accurate, is 101 Ways to Rock Your Personal Brand on LinkedIn. So if you're going to buy a book from me, that's probably the one. So it's just LinkedIn, 101 Ways to Rock Your Personal Brand, which is, you can read it on on a plane ride, maybe like a longer one, not a Ryanair trip from, England to France, but on a longer ride because they're very short. You can't really see because it's blurring it out, but they're very, very, very short pages. It's just one little tip per page. And I wrote it flying from Sweden to the US. So if I can write it in a flight, you can definitely read it in a flight. So that's the one. But it's full of 101 tips that you can use to really build not only your profile, but build connections and conversations on LinkedIn.
Well, but then still give us the secret. How long time should we spend on LinkedIn and when to engage with them? Where is that 1 hour fit?
Exactly. 1 hour is too long. I mean, for most people, like a lot of people don't have an hour a day. I say 2 things that you should do. First of all, a little bit in the morning, a little bit at lunch, or most people will use their mobile phone because they do LinkedIn when they're waiting in line, when they're on the subway, whatever. So that's a little bit each day is a lot better than doing an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours on a Friday. So just try and break it into little bite-sized pieces. And what you will discover, number 2, is that the more you use it, the more conversations you start to have. Well, the more you're going to want to invest your time. So yes, I spend at least an hour a day on LinkedIn, and many of our clients do because they're getting results. But to say, put an hour on your, block out an hour every day on LinkedIn, you won't even know what to do. You won't even have enough work to fill up an hour. So as long as you're sharing content, good content, curating good content, creating good content 2 or 3 times a week, you're sharing a blog post here, you're keeping an eye on your inbox, you're engaging on other people's posts, and you're inviting, good prospects to connect and accepting good prospects in your inbox, then you'll have enough success on LinkedIn that you'll want to invest more time in it.
That's interesting. And Viveka, if you would summarize everything and give our listeners a little strategy so they could apply something, see some results, grow their personal brand on LinkedIn, what would be the 3 steps that you would recommend them to take within, let's say, next month or recently, whatever, in the near future?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is hopefully you all know who your buyers are, who your buyer persona is. So I would do a search on LinkedIn, find some of those buyers, and the ones who are actually active on LinkedIn, you can save their profiles to a Google folder. You used to, with the paid account, be able to actually save their profiles. And if you've got Sales Navigator, you can save their profiles and create a list. But if you don't, you can still save the URL to a folder so that you can keep an eye on them and start engaging on their content if they're sharing content. So that's number 1. Use LinkedIn, search, find those good prospects, save their profile, and engage on their content. Step number 2, when you find a good prospect, see who you have in common and start asking for those introductions. And again, you can ask 5 people, are you willing to introduce me to so-and-so? And if only 2 say yes, choose your best yes, and then write the introduction for them. So that's number 2. And number 3 would be, do share content. If you can't do it daily, it really, folks, other than the reading of the blog post or the watching of the video, it's going to take you maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So it's not a huge time commitment. But if you can share a post, call it 3 to 5 times a week, that using that 1,200 characters to describe what the content is, and keep an eye on it in your notifications, what you will begin to notice is LinkedIn actually promoting that content, and you are going to get more likes, shares, and comments. And make sure to mine those likes, shares, and comments for good prospects and follow up with them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Viveka. There's so many tips, so many things to try. And now please share with our listeners how they can find out more about you, about your projects, how they can connect with you.
Sure. So our company is Vengreso with 1 S, VENGRESO.com. We've got, they're not mine, but my partners, we've got 2 podcasts, which one's focused on marketing, one's focused on sales. So definitely if you're interested in marketing or if you're interested in sales, those are good podcasts. Our blog, we have a ton of blog articles all about social selling on LinkedIn and how to sell with LinkedIn. So definitely check those out too. We've got a course called Selling with LinkedIn that you might want to check out if you want to take it to the next level. I cover obviously everything we covered here plus 9 hours worth in depth. So it's just an online course if you're interested in that. That one's Selling with LinkedIn. And if you want to connect with me, literally just Google LinkedIn Expert. My profile's usually under the paid ads. My profile's usually the first or second thing that shows up. So feel free to invite me to connect. Just let me know. Remember to customize that invitation. Let me know you heard me here on Marina's podcast or Marina's show, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you. And finally, I guess if you've got any questions about anything you heard today, you can just email me, viveka@vengreso.com.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put the links into the show notes. And Viveka, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.
Such a fantastic conversation. If you want to get deeper into LinkedIn marketing, I recommend checking this video where we talk with John Nima about how to set up your LinkedIn profile like top entrepreneurs and best-selling authors. and quickly start getting sales. Now, a question to you. What LinkedIn tactic for growing your personal brand are you going to try next? Are you going to engage with people more? Will you post more curated content? Or you are going to create more videos? Leave me a comment below. And one more thing. I have a special guide for you that will help you to get featured on the niche podcasts and quickly grow your personal brand. It has detailed steps that even introverts can apply and be great guests on the show. It includes tips on how to prepare for the interview, how to craft your media kit, and how to pitch podcasts with a bigger chance to be accepted. If you click the link below, you will get that guide for free.